بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه والوالاه. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We thank Him, we beseech Him for His mercy, and we ask for His forgiveness. And we send the best of blessings and salutations on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, on his companions, his family, and all those who follow his guidance to their judgment, inshallah ta'ala. The pious predecessors, when the month of Ramadan entered, they saw Ramadan as a visitor. And they would say, Murahab, Murahab ya Ramadan. They would welcome Ramadan, as Ramadan is a guest. What does it mean that Ramadan is a guest? Imagine that someone comes over to your house for dinner, for example. If you're having dinner by yourself, you'll suffice yourself with anything. Any meal at all. Whether it's simple, whether it's leftovers, doesn't matter. You'll eat. But when a guest comes over, what do? Do you serve the same simple leftovers, or do you make sure you have a nice meal prepared for your guest? You make sure that the meal is nice. You make sure you've got dessert, you make sure you have sweets and so forth for your guest. So you make that invitation different to every other day. That invitation is different. This is when you have a guest. Ramadan is your guest. However, Ramadan doesn't expect your food or your sweets or your dessert. What Ramadan expects from you is what? Your good deeds. So your preparation for Ramadan is your good deeds. And the point of Ramadan is to make sure that your days in Ramadan are different to your days before Ramadan. And that we hope, inshallah, this will carry on after Ramadan. So your days in Ramadan should be different to your days before the month of Ramadan. What does that mean? It means that you're practicing acts of worship and you're going beyond what you did before Ramadan. So look at yourself last week and look at yourself today. Your actions today, throughout your entire day, compare them to how they were last week. If you see no difference, or you see only a very small difference, then this is a reminder for you to pick up the pace. Ramadan is a month full of mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How is it full of mercy? It's full of mercy in that every night in Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extracts 600,000 souls from the hellfire. We ask Allah to make some amongst them, inshallah. Every night, 600,000 souls extracted from the hellfire. In no other month that you get this happening. In no other night that you get this happening, except the night of Ramadan. Every single day, and tonight 600,000, tomorrow night 600,000, the day after 600,000. Add it up over 30 days of Ramadan. Every single night of Ramadan this happens. We ask Allah to make us amongst them, inshallah. But what's expected from us is to make sure that we prepare for Ramadan and give Ramadan its rights. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he explained to us in a hadith, he said, only the wretched witness Ramadan and do not enter the paradise because of it. Only the wretched witness Ramadan and don't enter the paradise because of it. Why? Because in Ramadan, the acts were no different to the actions before Ramadan. Because in Ramadan, your enemies are locked away. The shayateen and the jinn are locked away, which means it's easier for you to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're no longer fighting only against yourself. Before you were fighting against yourself and the shaitan. Now you're only struggling against yourself. So it's much easier for you to overcome those weaknesses and those deficiencies in yourself than it is when you have shaitan battling against you as well. Whereas the shayateen are all locked away in this month. So it's easier for you to overcome those temptations and those haram and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we don't want to be like the ones who Rasulullah described in the hadith, that they fast, but their fasting benefits them nothing. Benefits them nothing except what? They have no fruits. They have nothing to show for Ramadan except what? Hunger and thirst. What does that mean? That means these people fasted. They actually fasted. So from the time that the Fajr entered until the time that the sun set, they were fasting. But their days were no different than any other day. They still practice the same old backbiting and the same lying and the same haram and looking at haram and talking about haram and walking to haram and touching haram and so forth. So they still practice all the same actions. So what happened to them? Their Ramadan, their fasting gave them no benefit whatsoever. The only thing they had to show for their fasting was what? Hunger and thirst. We don't want to be like these people. The point of Ramadan is what? For us to attain piety. For us to attain piety. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. To attain piety. How do you attain piety if you still practice the same actions you did before Ramadan? You're still listening to your music, you're still watching haram, you still glance at haram, you still touch haram, you still talk about haram, you still curse, you still get angry, you still disrespect your parents. All these actions. How do you expect the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala this month or any other month if you're still doing these actions? How is it possible? Only an insane person thinks, I'm going to continue the same way I always was, but I'm going to enter the paradise. Only an insane person thinks this way. So that, again, my dear brothers and sisters, in Ramadan, we focus on any actions, any righteous actions that we weren't doing before Ramadan. Make sure you're doing them now. One action which I'll point out, inshallah, which is very easy for us to do. Very, very easy for us to do. Because we all wake up for suhoor, inshallah. Or if you don't wake up for suhoor, make sure you wake up for suhoor. If you don't wake up for suhoor, make sure you wake up for suhoor. Even if you only wake up to have one small bite to eat. If you have one cup of water, one date, something small, because there's blessings in that time. Another thing I'll mention about that time is make sure that you get up in that time, inshallah. Yani Fajr enters around about 5:20 or so, 5:18, 5:19 was this morning, was when Fajr entered. So wake up a few minutes beforehand, inshallah, maybe 5 o'clock, or even before that if you can, and pray 2 rak'at when you wake up. Pray 2 rak'at when you wake up. The reward you get for praying those two units of prayer is what? Is the tahajjud. Is the reward of tahajjud. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in the hadith that the one who fears travels at night, and the one who travels at night reaches his destination. What does this hadith mean? The one who fears travels at night, and the one who travels at night, he reaches his destination. The one who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gets up and he does his righteous actions at night. Meaning his night prayers, his night vigil. He prays his tahajjud prayer. He remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at night. Why? Because this is a time of sincerity. We haven't got the eyes of people gazing upon you. Anyone can be righteous during the day, but you don't know if that's sincerity. Whereas at the night, it's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who fears, he travels at night. And the one who travels at night always reaches his destination. So if you get up and pray these 2 units of prayer, inshallah, this is a means for you to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reach Jannah. And again, inshallah, I'll finish off with another hadith of Rasulullah. He was talking to Sayyidina Mu'adh bin Jabal. He said to Sayyidina Mu'adh bin Jabal, As-sawmu junnah, that fasting is a shield. Meaning fasting is a shield from what? From the hellfire, and also a shield from sins. That fasting protects you from the sins and from the hellfire. وَالصَّدَقَةُ تُطْفِئُ الْخَطَايَا كَمَا يُطْفِئُ الْمَاءُ النَّارَ. And that sadaqah, charity, it extinguishes the bad deeds, just like water extinguishes fire. And sadaqah here doesn't mean to actually pay money. It could be through money, it could be through any righteous action. All of them count as charity. Even by smiling in the face of your brother is a charity. By removing something harmful from the path is a charity. By saying subhanallah is charity. By saying alhamdulillah is charity. By saying Allah Akbar is charity. Alright, so charity, it extinguishes the bad deeds just like water extinguishes fire. وَصَلَاةُ الرَّجُلِ فِي جَوْفِ اللَّيْلِ. And the fasting, and the prayer of a man in the middle of the night, and instead of giving an explanation, instead of giving his own words to describe the greatness of his deed, he recited the verse from the Quran. The verse of the Quran reading is تتجافى جنوبهم عن المضاجع يدعون ربهم خوفا وطمعا ومما رزقناهم ينفقون فلا تعلم نفس ما أخفي لهم من كرة أعين جزاء بما كانوا يعملون. That their beds, they separate their sides from their beds, they separate their sides from their mattresses, seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calling out to Him in hope of Him and in fear of Him. And they donate from what we give them in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So no soul knows that which has been reserved for them out of bliss and paradise as a reward for what they used to do. This is talking about what? About the man who gets up and prays in the middle of the night. So inshallah, all of us, or the majority of us, get up for the suhoor. And if you don't, make an effort to do so, inshallah, and get up a few minutes before and pray those 2 minutes of prayer. It takes you no more than 4 or 5 minutes to do it. But inshallah, through doing that, you get an immeasurable reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa jazakallah khair. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.